What's up, people? Perry here with another Mr. Random challenge. In our last episode, in our last challenge, we came up with this little thing right here, and that was all due to Mr. Random giving us the item diamond, which you can see right here, and also the word gate. And this is what we came up with. I used the shape of the diamond to kind of craft the way it looks. You can kind of see a bit of the diamond shape in it right here, and it kind of took on its own little thing by adding on these little ends to the gate. Overall, I think it turned out quite well. A lot of you in the comments came up with your own little interpretation or your imagination with what this looked like to you, and that's great, and that's what it's all about, using your imagination to come up with weird and crazy things. And maybe sometimes you see something else that somebody might not see, and that's the beautiful thing about your imagination, is that oftentimes you can come up with your own little thing. So if you would like to go ahead and download Mr. Random yourself so you can play along, it's down in the description below. Feel free to download it, use it however you would like. And if you would like to play along with me, just wait a little bit. We'll get our items going in no time. Oops. Let's I need a button. Hang on. For some reason I felt the need to left click, and that's not what we do here. There we go. So if you would like to play along, be sure to tweet me out a photo of whatever you create at ProPerryLP on Twitter, and be sure to retweet it. I love seeing all of your creations. Oh, what do we got here? A sword. A diamond sword. Okay. So that's our item, and coming out of here is going to be some sort of a word or something to inspire us a little bit further. And usually I say take about 30 to 40 minutes, and you'll be able to kind of come up with the idea yourself. You don't want to take too long in order to figure out what to build. So what is our word? Minimal. This should be a real easy build because I don't really have to do that much. Minimal. It's a real interesting thing to do minimal builds. You think it's just easy by making something real simple, but in fact there's a lot of nuances and a lot of things that can go into it. We'll be exploring all those things, but first I want to find a location, and I'm not too sure where I'm going to go for that, but when I find the location, we'll come right back and we'll get started. Alright, so I've gone ahead and picked out a suitable location for us to start building. It's just this area right here. It's sort of like an elevated plane, and I wanted to go with something simple because we're dealing with the word minimal, and what better way to call focus to something than a little hill, a little pedestal for us to put our creation on. And hopefully this will turn out just fine for us. And it's got the jungle in the background there, and I'm hoping that will kind of add to it a little bit. But in talking about minimal design, usually what ends up happening with minimal design is that you want to be able to break down the components of whatever it is you're trying to design, and in our case it's this sword right here. And oftentimes when you do that, it tends to make yourself focus on the specific aspects of the thing you're trying to do, rather than worry about all the different things that go into it. And so when you do that, it kind of focuses your mind, and oftentimes it can turn out to be something really great. And hopefully we can do something here. I have an idea in mind of what I want to do. Hopefully I can do it. But we're going to go through the process in trying to figure out what to do with this sword. Now, in breaking down the sword, of course, we have the blade, and then we have this, I think it's called the guard, going across there, and then we have the handle on the bottom. Now we want to try and make it as minimal as possible, so we'll just focus on building the blade, the guard, and the handle. And I'm going to go with one type of block just to kind of feel my way around this and see where I can interpret things a little bit better. I hope you guys are going to follow along with me, but like I said, I have an idea in mind of what I want to try and do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly make a simple guard, or not a guard, a handle, and then we'll break it down to just its simple components, and that would be the guard, and then we have a giant, the blade. And I usually sort of look kind of like that. So when we're thinking about minimalism and how everything works, we have just the basic outline here. And now the trick is how do we make something like this look good? We can play around with the size, the shape, and the way everything kind of aligns itself together. And hopefully we'll be able to come up with something nice. I'm just using gold blocks right now just because I really don't have anything else. I'm trying to go for something a little bit more striking. And the idea is that with this minimal design, you don't want to go with something too boring because you want the colors to kind of stand out. And so I'm going to go with a blade that is a little bit bigger. Something like that. Then the handle seems kind of small there. So basically I've just expanded this out a little bit more. And in this sort of fashion, I'm thinking that this looks pretty good. You think a job done? I think not. We can expand on this even further because the idea that I have, is that I'm going to make a whole bunch of these. And we'll arrange it in a sort of like a fashion that kind of emphasizes that this is a sword. And I hope you guys can follow along with me. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go away for a little bit and I will try and sort out where I'm going to be placing all these different swords. And I'll be right back with you. Alright, so I'm still planning out where everything's going right now. You can see a whole bunch of orange blocks of where I think I'm going to be placing some of these swords here, but I did want to kind of play around with this a little bit more. I'm thinking that we can go a little bit more into detail about how this sword will work. Now, usually with a guard, I think it kind of angles up sort of like that. And I think we'll take away the bottom maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll go with that. And then the handle itself, maybe we'll just take away that. That might be too thin, but I want to take a look at the overall picture. What I'm going to do at the top here is maybe add on a little point. You know, give it a little bit more pointiness. And keep it that single block color. It's, maybe the handle. Maybe the handle. It looks a little too top heavy for my liking, so maybe adding some girth down at the bottom will give it a little bit of balance, a little bit more evenness. Actually, no, it doesn't. I'm going to take that away. You never know until you actually do something what it's going to look like, so let's take a look at that. That looks a little bit more sword-like for my liking, and maybe, you know what, I'm going to add these blocks down at the bottom here. Okay, that's something I think looks a little bit better. It looks more sword-like. No, actually it doesn't. I'm going to change my mind again. You know, this is the kind of things that I often don't try and show you guys, but in this whole series I kind of want to take you along in the process of me trying to develop my ideas, and hopefully you guys can get some inspiration off of that. So what I did there, right there is just taking off a couple blocks here. Instead of taking off two, which kind of bottlenecked this area right here, I decided to add on a little block right there. Kind of builds it together much better, I think. And I think I'll keep the handle. I'll keep the handle. It looks nice. And I like the top. The top looks pretty sharp. And because, you know, the top looked kind of dull for my liking. And so that looks like a pretty good design. So we'll continue on with this. Alright, so I changed my mind with the way that the sword was looking. I didn't want to use the gold block anymore, mainly because I wanted to concentrate on the form of the entire thing rather than focusing on the texture, which the gold block did have some texture to it, so I didn't want to fool around with that too much. I wanted to concentrate on the overall picture here. And so what I am doing right now is working on placing these orange wool blocks, which I mentioned earlier, but just getting the placing right is something of, it takes a little bit of time to figure out where you want to place each of these blocks, and that's why these are kind of like temporary holders of where I think everything should go. There's no real rhyme or reason to it, and in a minimalistic form, you'll kind of see where I'm going with this, but the idea behind it is that I want to be able to figure out an even spacing in between everything, and I think that we've achieved that here. I do want to achieve some sort of randomness throughout the entire build, so that's going to be really important, and I think we've done that. And so and I wanted to incorporate it within most of the mound itself, and looks like we've gone and done most of that. Now what I am concerned about right now is trying to figure out how tall everything is going to be, and what I'm going to go for here is that this is going to be sort of like a main centerpiece, and then from there I'll be able to create little offshoots or little swords that go alongside of it, and it all kind of culminates right to the middle. So there's a focal element, a nice large focal element in the middle, and then as we go out to the outside they get smaller and smaller, and then out front here they'll have some of the smaller ones as well, and then in the back we'll have a larger swords, which kind of helps complement the overall picture. I do want to be able to see everything from sort of like this standpoint. So larger ones in the back, smaller ones up front, makes things nice and simple so that you can see everything that is going on. So next I want to try and pick out some blocks, and I'm thinking about just staying with the stained clay, just because it's a nice simple texture, and to tell you the truth, we've used this a lot throughout this series, and it seems like it's a real easy thing to kind of go with in order to kind of explore our ideas. So we have the yellow stained clay. I don't want to kind of go too contrast like with everything else, so I want to be able to, maybe we'll go with the red and the orange stained clay, so kind of like in that sort of fashion. I don't want to get too much into too contrasty colors, because we're going for some sort of minimalistic type picture. So once we start going off on too many tangents, it starts to obstruct the focus of the whole thing. And the idea behind it, again, with minimalistic, is to focus just on the main elements of your build, and so that's what we're trying to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away for a little bit, start putting down all these swords, and hopefully when we come back we'll be able to see a finished product. And so what we have here is what I would call a finished product. Now you can see that I wanted to keep the swords short on the sides here, and then when they got to the middle they were nice and tall. It's a nice focal element, something for us to focus in on, and if you see, they kind of come together to form sort of like their own sword. I don't know, you kind of have to use your imagination, but this took me maybe about 20 minutes to kind of conceptualize and build. And I didn't need as much of the orange where I placed the orange wool. I decided that, there's less is more in this sort of case, but using our inspirational objects, the sword and the word minimal, we come up with something like this. Again, with doing any minimal type design, instead of focusing in on the details, we instead try to look at the overall picture and how everything kind of works together and strip it down to just its basic elements. And you can see here we come up with something that can be pleasing to the eye. I'm sure that you guys can come up with some amazing ideas yourself, and if you do, be sure to tweet me out a picture at ProPerryLP. So that's gonna be it for me. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you so choose. Leave me a comment down below of anything you think about this series or what you think about this build. Be sure to let me know. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So that's it for me. always remember, keep your head up, and I will see you in the next one.